Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about some cards in the current card pool that potentially could link to these new heroes. We're going to get our tinfoil hats out, we're going to have some fun with it, and get your thoughts as well in case there's any cards that I missed. But if you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hopefully enjoy your stay. If you're a long-staying supporter, thank you so much as always. Feel free to check out the Discord down below, as well as the channel or the creator worksheet. So yeah, I want to have some fun with this. This was a very fun video to plan because out of all the sets I've been covering on the channel, I think since Tails, this is the first set where you look at these hero abilities and you can get an idea of what they're trying to do, I guess, from a macro perspective, like super 10,000 foot level. But as far as the synergies and what they're going to be doing turn to turn, or even current, I guess what I'm trying to say is the current card pool cards, it's really hard to figure out what cards could potentially go into these heroes, and that's the most fun part. And I love trying to think about this stuff before we get spoilers, and then you see how right or wrong you were. So we're going to talk about some of the current cards that I think could be useful for each hero. And I'm not saying go out and buy these cards. Please, this is not a market watch type thing. This is more just fun theorization, and I want to get your thoughts on it as well. So the first one we're going to cover is Puffin's ability. So just to say it again, Puffin says action. We're assuming tap or exhaust. You tap or exhaust something. I'm assuming a cog. Destroy a gold you control. Create a golden cog token. So you're probably going to tap something. In the second time you crank each turn, draw a card. So she cares about crank, she cares about creating gold and golden cogs, stuff like that. So the current mechanologist card pool is all based around boost, right? The only thing that we have that is going to be able to utilize all of these cogs is potentially the galvanized mechanic, right? Because cogs you're going to be able to destroy because they are items, and then be able to use those for galvanized. So stuff like Soup Up, it could be really useful. Since this deck may not be focused a lot around boost outside of a couple of key cards, Soup Up is a very good modular card that could block 4 or get 0 for 4 go again. So the problem with galvanized right now is there's not a lot of good galvanized cards. I looked through all of them just to double check, and Soup Up's the only one. There's one that's a 2 for 6 that if you destroy an item, it gets overpower. I think I have that in here. No, I didn't. Oh yeah, there's a torque tuned. But other than that, Soup Up's the only one. So it'll be interesting to see if we get good or better galvanized cards to be able to utilize all of the item generation we're going to be having. Some of the crank items though that are going to be useful is stuff like Cerebellum Processor. This I think will be a staple. I mean, if you care about cranking, right, being able to come in with 2 steam counters, crank it, gain that action point. Try to crank something else, draw a card from Cerebellum. You could just do some really dumb stuff. So excited about that one. And then Master Cog. Master Cog is going to be really interesting. When this is pitched, you may put a counter on an item you control with crank. This may be really useful to keep those cogs alive because they do tick down and destroy eventually. And I think that this card might actually end up being useful. We'll have to see, though. It's going to be really weird to see how mechanologist kind of goes from the boost mechanic, centerizing around the boost mechanic, to really centering around crank. And we kind of saw that with Dio and Max, but it's really going hands-on with this. Some other cards that I thought were really cool. TikTok Clock's very interesting, actually, for High C specifically. This enters the arena with a steam counter at the start of your turn. Destroy this, and it deals 1 damage to you unless you remove a steam counter from it. When a mechanologist attack action card you control hits a hero, destroy this and up to 2 other items in the arena. Deal X damage to them, where X is the number of items destroyed this way. I'm not saying this card's going to be a staple or anything like that, or even be used. I think it's really cool, though, because a lot of these heroes are, from what we can expect, especially if Marlin's cannons are considered items, we'll have to see. They might not be, but if they are, then we might, and they're all 3 heroes are creating gold. TikTok Clock might be a way to hurt your opponent's resources, right? If they can't destroy gold to draw a discard a card with Gravy Bones, or destroy a gold to do stuff with Marlin, it will really hinder them. So again, not saying it's going to be used, but it is interesting. Torque Tune is the only other galvanized card that I saw that was even remotely okay. It's a 2 for 6 that potentially has overpower and also can block 4. I don't know if it'll be used, but that was the only other one. I put those in here specifically to point out that galvanized probably will be a keyword supported in the new set, is my guess. And then finally we have Boom Grenade. I mean, that enough said on this one, right? Really good card. Has crank. Probably going to do what she wants to do. How many you run? Not sure, because you don't have the combat trick-esque like mechanic that Dio has, so it might not be ran, but I thought it was worth mentioning in here. The next one is Marlin, and Marlin is the most interesting one. I'm gonna go back for 2 seconds if it's okay, because we're going to read Marlin's ability one more time. Action, Exhaust. Destroy a gold you control. Create a gold fin harpoon in your hand. Go again. Whenever you draw a card during your action phase, you may put an arrow from your hand face up into your arsenal. So you can destroy gold to create gold fin harpoons. Gold fin harpoons are 0 for 2 ephemeral arrows attacks. It's going to be interesting also to see if this action right here means you turn the hero sideways, and if you turn the hero sideways, does that mean their abilities turn off? We'll probably get that in a rules reprise. Maybe it's not static, but regardless. So she cares about loading arrows and drawing cards, and as she draws cards, she loads more arrows. So there's some really cool synergies with that already, right, that we've already seen. One, and I want to pull this up here so I read it correctly, because Bramble Spark, I'm actually going to put them down in the description below if I can remind myself. They put out some really cool stuff. Bramble Spark has a channel. Definitely go check them out. Whisper the Oracle. They do some really cool stuff. But they even talked about how 3 of a kind gives you 3 separate load triggers, letting you load 2 arrows immediately after drawing cards. So because of Marlin's ability of whenever you draw a card, you may load an arrow, 3 of a kind gives you 3 separate windows to do that. So you'll be able to draw the first card, get that window, and because you drew a card, load if it's an arrow, load it. Draw a second card, get a window. Because of Maryland's ability, if it's an arrow, load it. So you could draw 2 out of 3 of the cards from 3 of a kind immediately with an empty arsenal, which is insane, like when it comes to, because 3 of a kind requires you to play cards from arsenal. And so if you could do that without even using whatever bow, let's just say for argument's sake you're using Death Dealer, if you can draw 2 go again arrows, that's a big if because there's not a lot right now, and we're going to talk about that in a second, then you could load 2 go again arrows, fire both of them, then load another arrow with Death Dealer, draw, load another arrow, right? Because Death Dealer also allows you to load an arrow, draw a card, then load another arrow. So in a perfect world, right, off Tunic, you play 3 of a kind, draw 3 cards, 2 of them are go again arrows. As you draw them, you then load them because of Marlin's ability. Shoot both of them. Then you load with Death Dealer, load, draw. Let's say you load a third go again arrow, draw a card, then you can load again because of Marlin's ability. So you just loaded 4 cards into your arsenal, so you could just keep firing stuff off. Now it's a big if, right? That's like super Christmas land, but it gives you an idea of what she could do depending on what her card pool is. And we'll talk about the go again arrows here in a second, because Perch Grapplers might end up being used. Who knows? Because if any ranger knows, this is probably the most non-used ability in equipment history for Flesh and Blood. Action, pay 2 resources, destroy Perch Grapplers until the end of your turn. Face-up arrow cards can be played. Face-up arrow cards played from arsenal gain go again. So if there's not a lot of access to go again on big 3 of a kind turns, you could pop Perch Grapplers and then be able to potentially keep firing arrows as you're drawing and just overwhelm your opponent. Now there's a lot of resource tax with that. A lot of things that are going on. The biggest thing with Marlin right now is it seems like Marlin is going to want to get go again. Now, I'm hoping, this is my random tin hat theory that has no basis other than just my thoughts, is hopefully she gets a bow and or offhand, probably or, not and, or offhand that gives her harpoons go again. Or maybe the first harpoon go again. That would be nice. Because being able to like make a harpoon, draw a card, load that harpoon, shoot the harpoon, load with your a bow, draw a card, load 2 arrows, like being able to fire like 2-3 arrows on a turn where you make harpoons could be really useful. And we'll have to see how the cannon mechanic, because we see it if you've made a cannon this turn, do X. That's what one of the cards says. I forgot exactly what it says. But we don't know what the cannons do. So until we know what the cannons do, I think that's going to be one of the missing pieces. But it's going to be really interesting to see that. And then finally, New Horizon. New Horizon, unless she gets some broken headpiece even more broken than New Horizon. New Horizon, this is like the one card in the list I will say, if you want to play Marlin, I think it's worth picking up New Horizon right now. That's just my opinion. She's going to want multiple arsenal zones, because when you play cards like Three of a Kind, or when you draw multiple cards, you're going to want to be able to load multiple arrows. So I think that's going to be really, really useful. So definitely think about that, right? The other really interesting cards, again, Go Again arrows. We don't have many of them. We actually have 2 of them. Sikkim Shot and Falcon Wing. That's it. That is all we have, unless I missed one, but I don't think I did. We only have 2. So she's going to need more Go Again somehow, some way. Obviously, you can kind of talk about that with like Snapdragon Scalers or Purge Grapplers, but overall, it's going to be really interesting. The last thing is Trench of Sunken Treasure is going to be kind of, a card to keep an eye on, because she's going to care about cards that are face up in Arsenal, right? Because of her hero ability and how it reads. If we go back really fast, we'll go through this. Because her hero ability says whenever you draw a card during your action phase, you may put an arrow from your hand face up into your arsenal. Well, if you have New Horizon out, you're going to have some situations where you have a card face down, and you might want to, because you might end your turn with a card face up in arsenal and then put your last card face down because of New Horizon, right? Well, the problem with that is if that card's not an arrow for some weird reason, or it's not a Go Again arrow, and then the card you have face up maybe isn't a Go Again arrow, you could get this weird situation where you like brick yourself. And I think Trench might be able to fix that, because Trench just says put a face-down card from your arsenal on the bottom of your deck, right? So you can filter if you need to and kind of get out of jail free card. And it has Arcane Barrier 1 and it has Blade Break, so pretty good. Now, she might get a different chess piece. I'm not saying Trench is going to be like an auto-include, but it is something to think about. Any deck with New Horizon that can't effectively like play out their whole hand sometimes, and we don't know how many Go Again attacks she's going to have, that could potentially mean that Trench might end up being a useful tool. And then we get to Gravy Bones. Gravy Bones is the most Tin Hat Theory thing, because we've never had a pirate class, and we've never had a necromancer class. So other than generics, Gravy Bones literally does not have a card pool right now. It doesn't even have something to grasp from. The only card we have that honestly synergizes with Gravy Bones is Call to the Grave, which everybody knows about. It's the reason the card's $40 now. I'm kicking myself in the foot because I have 2 of them. I should have got my third one back when it was $6, because I knew I was going to want to play Necromancer. Should have done it. Regardless, when it came to generics, I just tried to have some fun and look for cards that either I can play out without using my action point, or taking up my action point, or I get a Go Again, or I can discard at instant speed on my opponent's turn to then be able to play Watery Grave cards on their turn, because Gravy Bones, as you can see in the top right, says if a blue card has been put into your graveyard this turn, not your turn, you may play cards with Watery Grave from your graveyard. Might be useful. So cards like Ripple Away, Ripple Away is already a really strong card right now, prohibiting people from making tokens off action cards. That could be one that possibly is useful. Whisper of the Oracle, it's a blue block 3 that lets you opt 2, which is really good. It seems for Gravy Bones already has a card, the chart, the High Seas or whatever it is, that looks at the top of your deck. Being able to play this and then play chart, something like that, or be able to just play this outright, opt 2, and then be able to turn on the hero ability could be really useful. Cards like Trade-In, we've seen Leviah use. Again, I'm not saying these are going to be like in the deck. This is where my head went with some of these like super Tin Hat Theory stuff. Because when this attacks, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. If you play it from Arsenal, it gets Go Again. So you can discard a blue and then draw a card. Can be really useful. Sigil of Cycles kind of does the same thing. When this leaves the arena, discard a card, then draw a card. So again, keep discarding those blues to be able to turn on your Watery Grave. And then finally, Nip at the Heels was a weird one, because it says target attack with 3 or less base gets +1. I thought this was interesting, because if Gravy Bones ends up having like little allies like Dromai did, like she had Ash Wings, maybe he'll have like little skeletons, who knows. You could see Nip at the Heels become a card, because that card actually might be pretty standard, because if you're attacking with a Watery Grave that has Go Again because of your offhand, and let's say it's a 0 for 1 skeleton, you play Nip at the Heels, now you just played a blue card. A blue card has been put into your graveyard this turn, so now you can play other Watery Grave cards. Gravy Bones was definitely the most Tin Hat Theory thing. I just wanted to have some fun with it. But let me know what y'all think. I'd love to hear it. Again, this was just for fun, to kind of, pick our brain and figure out what we could see any correlations with these heroes, because that's the really cool thing about this set. The fact that they're dual class heroes, Pirate Ranger, Pirate Necromancer, Pirate Mechanologist, and they all kind of have a brand new mechanic on them and tap or exhaust, and they kind of deal with different things that their class normally doesn't do, or never had a class in general. It's kind of crazy to think, what could potentially go in these decks from the current card pool. And an even more exciting thought is there might not be. These might be really novel decks where we're using like 70% new cards, which in my opinion would be awesome. I would love to see like new archetypes and synergies in the same class, but we'll have to see. So let me know what your thoughts are. I'd love to hear it. If you like this type of content, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. If not me, it's completely fine. Go to another creator. Let's leave a like, comment, subscribe on their stuff. Go down to the creator sheet, find them. Go check out Bramble Spark, since I shall use their tweet in order to reference some of the interactions. Follow their channel. I'll link their stuff down below. And yeah, thank y'all so much, and hopefully y'all have a great rest of your day. I'll see y'all next time.